Hello, and welcome to the final day of Ritual Without Rules. Today is Friday the 13th, the day of the goddess. So, we are here to talk about all things goddess. Now, I'm just going to put these cards aside. I was pulling out some images so you can get a real visualization of what some of these goddesses kind of show up as. A deck or decks, I've got multiple decks here, are a really great way to kind of figure out who your goddess is or who you should call in certain situations. So I just wanted to pull out some cards today to show you. So tell me, how is everybody doing today here on YouTube and on Instagram? Are you feeling a little empowered this week from listening to all these lessons about how you can so easily bring ritual into your daily life? I love. Today is Freya's day. So here for Instagram and here for YouTube. Freya is a Norse goddess. She's one of my main goddesses. Now, there's an interesting little flippity floppity that happens in Norse mythology. Freya and Frigg, in a lot of the poetry, which is what we really have of Norse wisdom, that a poetic Edda, it like flip-flops between Frigg and Freya. And sometimes Frigg is Odin's wife, and sometimes Frigg is Odin's daughter, and sometimes it's Freya and it's Odin's daughter. And so I'm still diving deep into it, but wherever you go, there is this kind of back and forth between what goddess is which and who is married to who. And it just depends on what version of the mythology you read. But I always see Freya as Odin's daughter in my mind. That's the way it feels right to me. But once again, my opinion and my beliefs and how I have connected with the goddess over time, that's what feels, good. Anne Knight says she's feeling more empowered. You are so very welcome. And that's exactly what I wanted to do this week. I wanted to empower you to do your own practice. This is what all of this is about. And today we're going to talk about goddess veneration, the day of the goddess, why it's important to celebrate Friday the 13th as the day of the goddess. Hey, Google morning. Oh, you mean good morning? I'm like, Google? Why do I need to Google? So let me there's a couple more cards that I want to pull out here. And it's interesting too, in the whole witchy magical realm, there's lots of like little infighting about who's a goddess and who's not a goddess. And, can we raise regular everyday people? Like, I know Joan of Arc is in a couple of these decks that we kind of venerate them as goddesses. All of the Celtic goddesses were believed to be people of this earth. And then they were born into being a goddess, or we raised them to the level of being a goddess. And then there's some Celtic goddesses that were born goddesses. So give me 2 seconds. I'm a little behind today because we slept in. Yay, I slept. Like, how amazing is that? So I had to, I'm making up some time here. I've done a really kick-ass printable for you guys today. I have done, okay, I think I've got all the cards I want, and if I need to look for other ones, we're totally good. So, Friday the 13th, in which we are sitting today. It's when I launched, if you were here for when we opened the shop originally, I think that was almost 2 years ago, it was on Friday the 13th. Because for me, it's such a powerful day. And what you have to understand that it was a powerful day up until the 14th century. And in the 14th century, we had this wonderful Heinrich Kramer, the guy that kind of like didn't I'm trying to think, did he write the Maledictum, the one that like essentially described what witches do and how I think that's who it was, but again, don't always trust what comes out of this mouth because my memory is so crap. But there was somebody, Heinrich Kramer, who labeled Friday the 13th as the witch's day, and then it became unlucky. But up until 1487, Friday was the day of the goddess. Friday is Freya's day in Norse tradition. We have 13 moon cycles in a year, and women, if you have a cycle, tend to menstruate 13 times. It is deeply connected to the divine feminine. And even if you're on here and you are connected more to your divine masculine, I'm trying to find balance. And this is what this whole entire day is about to talk about, because I was incredibly so in my masculine my whole entire life. Like, so in my masculine, I didn't know how to step into the feminine. I would be considered a tomboy growing up. I felt masculine. You know, I was just kind of sitting here before you all arrived, and I was thinking about this transformation that has happened in front of my eyes. This transformation. Yeah, the game does change when you're going through menopause. I've kind of been perimenopausal for the last 5 years, but that still doesn't mean that you can't venerate all of this cycle, because not only do women have a physical cycle, but we're actually connected. Well, everybody, whether you're male, female, non-binary, we're all connected to that silly moon in the sky by this energy that runs through all things. We're made up, I believe is it 65 or 75% water? I always forget the percentage. But that moon pulls the tide, right? So if that moon's pulling the tide, what do you think it's doing to us individuals that are 65, 75% of water, depending on how hydrated you are? Probably. I'm not very hydrated, so I'd be on the lower end. We're all affected by that. And I'm actually a huge believer in tracking your energetic cycle, and especially, keyword, if you don't have a physical cycle anymore. If you don't have a physical cycle, your energy is connected to the cycles of the earth. Because I'm perimenopausal, my cycle does this really weird new moon, full moon, new moon, full moon, new moon, full moon. So I don't have the typical cycle that a traditional menstruating female has, or menstruating male, or menstruating non-binary. Because all people have access to this. It's not a gendered thing. And I also want to make it very clear and I just got massive shivers. So I was talking yesterday about why I loved Norse tradition so much. It wasn't very gendered, and there was lots of switching of genders. If you know about Loki actually turned into a woman, had sex with Odin, and then produced a child. So he actually, there's all this interesting gender play within the Norse traditions. And it's why I love it so much. Because for me, I've never fit in when it comes to gender. And I will tell you, when I started talking to my son about what non-binary meant or being gender fluid, we were actually reading a book. I'm gonna forget, Magnus Chase. So if you have younger children that are into Norse mythology, that kind of like sarcasm and love a good adventure, Magnus Chase is an amazing series to talk to your children about, because in these books, there are gender fluid individuals, and it describes it so well. And then they also talk about the stories of Loki. They talk about the stories of Freya. They talk about the stories of Frey and Odin. And it's really an amazing way to get these stories if you are interested in Norse traditions. And of course, every way that a story is told, it's tweaked a little bit, and some of the information not maybe 100%, so you have to take it all with a grain of salt. But what I'm trying to say is, no matter what your gender, no matter what your physical body is doing, goddess veneration and goddess worship is important to all of us. Because no matter where you sit on this whole range of gender, I'm consider myself non-binary. I'm they, them. When I had those conversations with my son, I actually said to him, and that's what kind of like brought all this to the front for me, was I actually, as I was describing all this to my son, and I'm going to get so upset because it's such a big deal. I said to my son, I wish I was growing up now, so I could have these conversations with my friends so they could understand me more. So I could say that I don't fit in any of these. I fit here. And I said, I'm jealous that you get to choose that. And my son, he's so wise. He goes, but mommy, you can choose it. Just because and he's such a wise kid. He said to me, he's like, just because you lived your life a certain way for so long doesn't mean that you can't choose to live it a different way going forward. And I still remember having the conversation with my husband about, what do you think if I start using they, them pronouns? And I said, it doesn't change, it doesn't change who I am, but this is the way. He's like, whatever. So my whole entire family has been incredibly accepting of that. And if you have followed my journey from the beginning of all of this, I have physically changed who I am through goddess worship. I have become more in my power through goddess worship, because all of these goddesses have different aspects. They have different powers. They can show us different aspects of ourselves. And depending on who you tune into on any certain day, it could feel very masculine. It could feel very feminine. So goddess worship and veneration has nothing to do with gender. And I just want to make that incredibly clear, because I know a lot of men out there are like, well, what are these goddesses about? Is it cool for me to venerate a goddess? Of course it is. With all of these deities are available for us to access, and especially if they call on you. So we were talking a little bit about Friday the 13th. So today is Freya's day. Friday is the day of Freya, but Friday the 13th is the day of the goddess, because we have 13 cycles. We have 13 moon cycles. If you actually want, and I actually pulled some books today from the shop to show you, if you want a really in-depth kind of look into all of this, the 13 cycles, and listening to your body and listening to the goddess and working with the 13 moons, this book right here by Jenna Tellendrew is one of my absolute favorites. Now, she is very collegial. So it is heavier, very deep. She goes through every single moon phase, talks about the what each moon is for, like the moon of transformation. It talks about what herbs you should use for that moon. It talks about what goddesses that you can worship under that moon. And it's in the Celtic tradition. So this one, because Avalon, right? If we all know, Glastonbury is where they believe Avalon was. So this is very based in the Celtic tradition. So this isn't all goddess veneration. This is like Celtic goddess veneration, but I love it. It is absolutely one of my favorite kind of like go-to, like, why am I feeling this way on this moon? And I go, oh, right, this is the moon of connection. So this is an excellent book if you're kind of wanting to dive deep in. One of the, this is like one of my most recent favorites, and I think I've only got 3 left. This is fantastic. It is The Year of the Goddess. And I just love the illustrations in it too, because there's not a lot of, I love imagery. I'm a very visual person, so I love connecting. So it goes month to month. Sorry, I've got to keep moving out of the way of this meme that I have on my desktop. I'm like, you can just move that. So it goes month by month. So let's go to August. And I thought it was really funny. I don't know if any of you saw my post last week about doing archery and calling on Diana. Well, when I went to look into the book, because I just felt called to do that. And this is the thing. Sometimes, out of the blue, I'm like, I need to go do archery and call on Diana and go into meditation. Okay. But as soon as I did it, as soon as I connected with that energy, and yes, I hurt myself. Well, it doesn't really hurt when the string grazes your arm, but I need to get a brace because I wasn't paying attention in that moment. And I did myself a nice bruise. But when I came back, who is the book by? It is by Sky Alexander. When I came back in, I looked up Diana, and then the dates to invoke her were August 7th to the 13th. So I started to invoke her last week, and then this is the week that you invoke Diana. So it just amazes me that sometimes our intuition is stronger than we realize, that we don't have to I don't remember what I keep saying this week. I have 14% memory. So none of this information actually stays in my head. Whenever I go to teach something like this, I have to pull up my notes. I have to pull out books. I have to pull out all of these things. And I didn't remember that was the week to call on Diana. I don't remember these things. I'm truly going through my intuition. And I want to show you, for me anyway, that's the best way to go. If I sat with this book every month and I was like, well, I have to call on Kuan Yin this week because that's what I need to do. And I need to call on Pachamama this week because that's what this book says to do. That's a great way to start. But when you start to allow your intuition to lead you down the path, that is the best. That is the best way to do these workings. It's all about your intuition. It's all about connecting to the goddess. I didn't go out into that field and do archery because I heard Diana calling. I went out into the field to do archery because I felt like I needed something meditative, that I was using my energy, that I was standing in my power. Ooh, I got big tingles again. And when I stood there and pulled, I was like, I need insight. I need clear thinking. I need to refocus. And then I called on Diana. I don't remember anything. I went all the way through grade school, high school, and college. And then finally in the last year of college, I went, this just seems way too hard. Why is this so hard for me? And then I finally went and got some testing done. I think I was in my late 20s. And they're like, yeah, so you have 14% rote memory, and you're going to have a computer with you 24/7 so you can remember things. Here's some tools. to try. And it was like devastating. How did I make it from grade school to the end of college without having a memory? I guess I just got there on luck a little bit. So we're just going to do a quick offering to the goddess because I always like to start. And today, because it is Friday the 13th, I want to start. So we're just lighting a puck. If you haven't seen me do this before, this is a charcoal puck. And we place incense on top of it. I'm just going to wait for the starter to burn off. And I used my big thing of tea that I got at the grocery store last week that has rose in it. It's got a little bit of sage in it. And I'm going to use some of that hibiscus. To me, that feels very goddessy. Now, how do I know all this? Well, I know I gave roses in a goddess offering once before, and I feel like hibiscus is nurturing like the goddess. So again, all intuition based. There is no right way or wrong way to do this. I will tell you, people are like, oh, I think I put the wrong offering. Excuse me, I'm going to cough. On my altar for the goddess. Now, there are some goddesses that are a little more fickle than others. I will say if you're going to work with Hecate or you're going to work with any of the dark goddesses, and I actually pulled out a deck, this one, that is all dark goddesses. And if you are interested in dark goddesses, I have one copy of this in the store, but you have to DM me because it's not up on the website. I'm still catching up from when we closed. So I have that dark goddess, and then I have this one too, Goddess and Sirens. I have one of these left too that's not on the website. But what was it? Oh, so yes, some of the darker goddesses, so like the Morgaine. Can you see that Instagram? And can you see that? Nyx, actually, this necklace that I'm wearing was created with the energy of Nyx, and she is all about respite, which I have needed a lot of lately. So I'm trying to invoke her energy to, The Morgaine is about sovereignty, standing in your truth and being in your power and kind of not allowing anybody else to like lead you out of your space. And darker goddesses can be a little fickle. So, you know, with Hecate, she is one of the goddesses that I work with when I need some heavy lifting done. But she's also one of those goddesses that is, if you're not into it truly wholly, if you're not willing to do the work, if you're not willing to commit energy to the thing that you're asking for help for, she's just going to get pissed off and either not do anything or make it happen in the opposite direction. So we really want to, when we're choosing our goddesses, to do a little bit of research. I actually created this awesome printable with a whole list of different goddesses and a little, hey, Kelsey, thanks for joining. Hey, Mono Mama, thanks for joining. I created a little ebook for you with a little ritual at the end of it to do a goddess offering. So when you read that list of goddesses, you know, you're kind of like pulled to one or the other, or you look at what their correspondences are. So Goddess Kuan Yin is the goddess of compassion. You invoke her for love, light, releasing judgments, awareness, gentleness, truth. If you're looking for those things, you can call her in, you can invoke her. So, but what I would also say is before you just go, this one, do some research. Go a little bit deeper, because that truly is what all of these workings are about, is about getting to know yourself, but also getting to know the aspects of everything that you're working with. If you want to work with herbs, and give offerings to the goddess, then research those herbs. If you want to work with animal totems, Freya, she has two giant cats that pulls this like chariot. So cats are really important to her, but also ravens, because that's a little bit of the aspect of Odin. Let me take my tinctures. I need a little kick in the butt. Even though I slept really good, I feel like my energy is a little lower than it was yesterday, which is probably good. It was a little ranty, but in a good rant, right? So accepting the goddess for me was incredibly hard. So I talked about this a little bit earlier about how I'm gender fluid. I never truly feel like one of the other. Some days I wake up and I'm like, holy, I'm feeling the goddess today, or I'm feeling really feminine today. And I have, yes, outward appearance, very feminine, but some days not. And in my lifetime, I have gone from very masculine, shaved head, wearing men's clothes, like men's underwear, men's clothes. When I met my husband, I don't even know, do you see? Because I look like a squeegee kid. Like I had the chain-driven wallet, and I wore men's cargo pants, and I had super kind of like short, choppy hair. And not that you have to be feminine for somebody to be attracted to you. I know that he went for my brain over whatever else he was looking for. But there's so many aspects within ourselves. And I think we need to embrace all of those pieces. Now, how many years ago was this now? Probably 4 or 5 years ago, I kept getting the message from people that you need to embrace your divine feminine. And in the beginning, it made me so angry because I didn't understand what that meant. And I was like, fuck you. I'm not wearing pink. I'm not going to wear dresses. I'm not going to, like, that is not me. Because I didn't understand what they were trying to say to me. And that, because I can be very masculine in my approach, I'm very direct, I get to the point, I'm very practical, I've got that science-based mind. But then there's pieces of me that's really soft. There's pieces of me that's very forgiving. But at the time when I kept being told that I needed to embrace my divine feminine, I was not graceful. I was not soft. I was like, if you did something to me, I was harsh back to you. There was no fluidity to who I was. And, I still remember when I was a wedding photographer, I used to wear suits because when I started doing wedding photography, well, we're talking over 30 years ago now, I was one of the only women doing what I did. There wasn't a lot of women in wedding photography. And then when I went to college, it shifted. There were 75 people in our class and 5 of them were men. So it was really this like amazing time to be a photographer because so many women were stepping into it. But still, when I went and shot weddings, there was this misogyny that would show up. And the way that I dealt with it was to be more male. I wore suits. I cut my hair short or tied it back. You couldn't even really tell that I was feminine, aside that, maybe I had eyeliner on or mascara or wore some sort of makeup. But I presented that way because I put up walls. So I didn't have to deal with wow, that's a big lens. What are you going to do with that? And I have dealt with that my entire life. My mom was the same as me. My mom put up walls to her femininity because of things that happened to her in her life. And I did the same. Men didn't necessarily understand that I wanted to be their equal. Because from the moment I was born, I knew that I was here to do something and do something big to encourage people or to empower people. And for me, at the time, the people that had those roles were men. And I'm dating myself here because this has all changed. It's no longer like this, which I am so grateful for. But when I first started working in my career, I had to show up like a man. I had to act like a man. I had to be aggressive like a man. I had to sell like a man. And I know that's because I could slip into that role, I became very masculine. And that's where the gender fluidity came from. I noticed that in my relationships with people, if they were expecting a certain thing, I could morph into that thing. So, if I'm in a situation and it's very guy-y, I could morph into that. So I never dated because when I hung out with boys, I acted like a boy. And actually, when I was younger, my main circle of friends was guys. I didn't hang out with girls because that divine masculine energy for me was very empowering. So when it came time for me to delve into the divine feminine, I was very put off, and I did that very masculine, right? Like, no, I'm not doing it. You can't tell me that I have to wear flowery dresses, and you can't tell me that I have to like chant and do all these flowy things and wear a muumuu with like flowers all over it. When I saw divine feminine, that's what I thought it was. But it's not at all. You can be who you are and embrace the goddess. You can be male, and I've always been rough and tough in a small package. I like the construction. I've always felt the noise. Yes, that Norse warrior woman power. And that is probably why I'm attracted to Norse traditions and why it's embedded in me so much, because there is an equality in Norse traditions. Women fought along with men. There were gender fluid leaders in Norse tradition that were buried with male items and female items. So they believe that they were gender fluid, which just makes me so excited. How do we let go of having Christianity drilled into us at birth? Specifically Catholicism. They ingrain so many fears. I do not identify as Christian, but I still have trouble with this. It's a process. Essentially, you're deprogramming yourself, and that takes time. So allow yourself the time to transfer over. I was programmed. Totally. I was programmed. Because I grew up seeing spirit, and because we celebrated the fire festivals and all of these things, I kind of had a balance. But I don't want to say I was forced to go to Sunday school, but I went to Sunday school with my friends, and I went to a Christian summer camp. Those traditions were kind of in me, but I always fought them. I was always very angry to be there, and I'm like, well, that doesn't sound right to me. I was that jerk in Sunday school that was always questioning and be like, where are all the women in these stories? Why is it always men that have the power? That was me. So just questioning everything, Pandoria. Like, question it and go, when that rises up in you, when those Christian feelings rise up in you, just go, is this serving me? Does this have a place in my day-to-day life? If it doesn't, put it down. And every single time it comes up again, just observe it. You observe it and you go, why am I feeling these things? Oh, right. Because this is what I was told to believe my whole entire life. And then you just put it down. And eventually, it just doesn't even show up anymore. It's a process. There's so many people going through this process, changing from one belief to the other, because now we live in a world where you can truly be anything you want to be. Praj 1979 says, am so masculine as well, a warrior kind. No wonder I have always been attracted to the goddess Kali. Yes, so Kali, I think I have her in here. I freaking love her. And I should have actually brought out my Divine Feminine deck. I don't know where that one is right now. But Kali has the heads of men around her neck. She's a little fierce. She's a Hindu goddess, Kali Ma. This is from the Kyle Gray deck, Keepers of the Light, which I was talking about the other day, that if you're starting to look for deities, this is a great place to start. And actually, I'm desperately waiting for Vix's deck to come out because it's similar, but it's much more feminine. So this has a little bit of a masculine twist to it because it was made by a masculine person. But this Kali Ma, she's strong. It's why I love the dark goddesses, like Nyx and the Morgan. These fierce warrior-like energies, like even in the Goddess and Sirens deck that we have, where is, like, look at Freya, man. Look at her. She's like, I love her. I mean, yes, this imagery is like super wicked empowering, and maybe she just looked exactly like me, but the energy is fierce. Some of these goddesses have fierce, fierce energy. So you don't have to fear that once you step into divine feminine, that it's all flowers and poetry and love and, oh, high vibe. No. Goddesses they kick ass. They take names. They get shit done. Like I was saying, like Hecate. You don't want to mess with that stuff, man. You only call on Hecate when you are like, know that you want to accomplish this and you're going to put all of your, you're Indian and Hindu, and it's Prajakata. I'm horrible. Again, my dyslexia makes it very hard for me to read things on screen, but thank you for sharing. So all of these energies are available to us. And sometimes, like last week when I went and pulled my bow and invoked Diana, sometimes we're just called to them. How can you call for guidance? I have special needs child who is nonverbal. So guidance, how? Like in context of what? Guidance from a goddess, guidance from spirit, guidance from the universal energy through all things. I would start, if you haven't watched Deanne, all the videos, go back to day 1. I started on Monday with where is your ritual? Finding ritual within your daily, like when I have my coffee from Tim Hortons, that's a ritual. When I have to drink my giant thing of water, that's a ritual. When I take my tinctures, when I'm in the shower, brushing off, all of these things help us connect to this energy greater than ourselves. But it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as easy as grabbing a deck from the shop and pulling a card every day and say, who do I need to call on today? And if you're not sure who you want to work with, a deck like Kyle's is perfect because it has angels, it has ascended masters, it has goddesses, it has gods. And all you do is you go, who do I need to call on today to give me direction in my life? Who do I need to call on today? Or what energy do I need in my life today? Oh, there it is. Lord Shiva. So not a goddess, but a lord. And it's about transcendence. Rise up, honor your inner force. Steps are being given. Dance with the universe. So we talked about raising our energy yesterday, trying to be healthy so we can connect with the energy of the earth. It's not all about love and light. You know, some of the goddesses we're going to talk about today, you know, hell, she's scary. She's a scary goddess. She's a scary, scary goddess. But that's okay. Sometimes we need that strong, powerful energy like we were just talking about with Kali Ma. Where did it go? Where did she go? We just had her. Oh, there we go. Strong, powerful energy from Kali Ma. It can be an intense energy, but sometimes we need that intense energy. So, why for women specifically is goddess worship really, I will say it is the key to our power. It truly is the key to our power, because if you have watched me for any length of time, you may have noticed a physical change, and you may have noticed a softening of who I am. I'm not as hard. I mean, yes, some days, like yesterday when I was kind of ranty, you can feel my divine masculine in those conversations. But then sometimes, I'm just chill and I go with the flow and I'm open to receiving whatever comes my way. And I want to feel feminine and I want to wear, feminine clothes. But when we step into that power, you become truly your whole self, because there are always two pieces of us. Is always going to be divine feminine, which is the left side of your body, and it's all about giving. Divine masculine is the right side of your body, and it's all about receiving. So, as women and mothers, not just women in general, but mothers specifically, I'm just going to use this as an example. We give so much of ourselves. So much of ourselves. So if you're an over giver, call on your divine masculine and learn how to receive things. It was a couple of days ago where I was talking about, I put roses on my altar to invoke love, to invoke like people finding my stuff and falling in love with it. And everybody was giving me these amazing compliments. And it's so crazy. Some crazy things have happened since all I did was put 3 roses, the power of 3, on my altar to ask for these things. Actually, Rockwell Publishing, which, do I have any of their decks out? I don't. I love Rockwell's new decks that are coming out. Vix is just putting out a deck with them. I do. All of these. Rockwell Publishing has the Green Witch Oracle. They have the Magic of You Oracle and the Pure Magic Oracle. They messaged me last night and loved the image that I created so much of this deck that they're going to use it in their feed. That's all because of these silly 3 roses. The divine feminine, softening myself to allow me to receive those compliments. Same here, K-words. Like, I visually now, more than ever, look very feminine, but my energy comes off of divine masculine. And we just have to learn to embrace both sides of us. We need to learn how to, hey, Tarot Diva, thanks for joining on YouTube. Sorry, guys, I was ignoring you on YouTube for a little bit. Hey, Sabrina Cabral. So knowing that if you're only focused on half of the divinity world, half of the divine, if you're more focused on gods and you've been kind of like staying away from goddess worship because it feels kind of airy fairy, or it feels kind of not really your thing, I am telling you today, the best thing I ever did was invoke the divine feminine in my practice. It has completely changed who I am. When I was younger, and I don't know what years you guys grew up in, but I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And I wore boys' clothes for years. And I worked out every single day. I worked out 3 times a day. I would actually say I think I was a little bit addicted to working out, because for me, it was the only way to get rid of all of this energy that I had inside of me. If I didn't work out, I was incredibly anxious and incredibly depressed. But it kind of went to the extreme. So I was in the gym pretty much all day. I was in the gym at lunch. I could leg press more than most of the guys on the football team. I could power lift more. My 2 events for track and field were shot put and javelin. And I could throw the shot put further than most of the guys at my school. And actually, the coach took a real liking to me because he's like, I've never seen a girl throw like you. And I'm like, it's because I'm invoking, like, I mean, I didn't know that back then, but I was invoking the divine masculine. I was very strong. It was very powerful. And that frightened people. And I also hid my feminine side. So, yeah, I mean, actually, I'm kind of wearing a baggy shirt today, but I ordered the wrong size from the Bird's Papaya box, but I didn't want to send it back. So it's a little too big for me, but I'll make it happen. It'll be more like a dress or something. But I really pushed away the feminine because to me, it drew the wrong kind of attention. I wanted to be known for being smart. I wanted to be known for being witty. I wanted to be known for what I could actually do instead of somebody looking at me and going, oh, nice boobs or nice ass. And I still have like a friend of mine, and she meant no offense by it. But she said yesterday, your boobs need their own Instagram. And that's what I'm talking about. And I totally accept it. I'm like, yeah, hell, because they're nice. Like now that I'm comfortable with my femininity because I've embraced the divine feminine and I understand the magic that is held within our body, like our bellies. I actually had a moment with my son yesterday. We were laying on the couch and he was rubbing my belly. He loves my belly. He always has. Like when he was a little baby, he would run up to it and he would do this. He's like, big belly, big belly, big belly. And then he would like rub his face in it. And it really I had to get comfortable with my own body. Because if I told him, oh, don't do that. Oh my God, no, ew. If I did that, I would actually be body shaming myself. So I was like, oh yeah, look, my belly. This belly made you. And when I had a baby, it changed everything because you feel powerful. I have never felt stronger than the moment that I pushed out an 11-pound baby naturally. Like, talk about being a fucking warrior woman in that moment. And not only did my son weigh 11 pounds, but he came out with his arm beside his head, face up. Literally the worst way to have a baby. My midwife now uses me as a birthing example. And she says, if this woman could birth an 11-pound baby with his arm beside his head, face up, you can do this. You can birth your like 6-pound kid that's coming out the way that it should. That was so empowering for me. And then afterwards, reclaiming my body, understanding that my breasts were something that could feed life, that could heal my son if he was sick. I then truly realized what being feminine meant. And, I still have that divine masculine in me always. That is never going to go away. But now I have more of a balance. And if you're feeling this pull, like I know there was a lot of you that were like, yeah, I totally feel masculine. I totally feel, like a tomboy. And yes, I wear more masculine clothing and you want to delve into your divine feminine and you're not sure where to start. This book changed it for me. I don't love all Rebecca Campbell's stuff, but this book, Rise, Sister, Rise, I read on my trip to Morocco, and it truly just made it clear for me that, oh, it's not just about wearing flowery dresses. Oh, it's not just about having long hair and wearing makeup and showing off my body. Like, it's not just about that. It's about more than that. It's about stepping into our sovereignty and stepping into our power and claiming our feminine, as opposed to like hiding our feminine or just being like, my feminine feels awkward. Now I can show up and do all of these things like, you've seen what I've been wearing this week. I feel very comfortable in my body now because I embrace the divine feminine, because I talk to the goddesses, because I invoke who I need to invoke when I'm feeling a little bit lower. Yeah, Deanne says, sometimes I feel more masculine than my husband. I totally get that. Me and my husband are complete opposites. And I truly do feel like sometimes I'm the one that's like, no, we need to get this done. My husband is more go with the flow, kind of like, oh, when it happens, or maybe we'll make a plan, but oh, we'll start that. And he's very kind of fluid in that way. And I'm like, I need a list. I need the things that I want to do. So yes, I totally understand that. And that's truly what I want you to understand here today. Goddess worship is not just for women. It's not just for a specific gender. Everybody can benefit for invoking a goddess to give them power. Everybody can benefit from invoking the mask. If you're feeling incredibly feminine, then invoke the masculine. Call on Odin. Call on, Mercury. Call on masculine energy. You can do that too. We have access to all of this. You do not have to be one or the other. You can be, I'm definitely somewhere in between. I don't fit in a category. And I really do feel like because of the time that I grew up in, if you were a woman, you were going to have kids. If you were a woman, you were going to get married. You may be a career woman. And I still have tons of anger around that, which I am still working through. Me and my husband watched this show, and I can't remember what it's called, but I think it's on Amazon, and it's about this newspaper in the 70s where the women were the researchers and the men were the writers. And they wouldn't allow the women to write. They would allow them to research, but they wouldn't allow them to write. And I get so angry about it because it just boils my fucking blood. Like, I honestly think I chose a male-dominated profession of photography because I was like, fuck this shit. Like, I want to disrupt something here. Like, this cannot be like this anymore. I want to make waves. And because I started my career in Toronto being a photographer, a commercial photographer, that's like my traditional profession. I'm a product photographer. It's why Rockpool has asked me to use one of my photographs because it looks like it's a professional photograph because I'm a professional photographer. Just another one of my talents. But I think I chose that because I've always had this, like, we need to break the rules. Ritual without rules, right? We need to break those barriers that were set up. And, sometimes me and my husband really butt heads because he thinks I hate men. I do not hate men. I feel masculine, but I understand both sides of how we've been raised, of how we've been indoctrinated that women need to bear children and they need to go. Oh my God. I had some devastating comments made to me when I was younger by teachers. And one of the devastating comments was, this teacher, he was a substitute teacher and he did a little bit of this. We had a lot of those at my public school. But he did a little bit of this on recess. And we were doing math and I brought my math papers up. And when I did my test to figure out what was going on in my brain, I got 14% in math. I had, like, as most people with learning disabilities, I have high highs. Like, my vocabulary is in the 97th percentile. My, I can't remember. There's something else that's up in that. But when you have high highs, you always have low lows. And we're talking about this duality piece today. But he said to me, he's like, well, you're not very good at math, are you? So you can't be you can't be a bank teller, and you can't write either. So you can't be a secretary. So what are you going to do? And I think that was the moment that I got like revved up as a human being. I think it was in grade 5. That I was like, this is not going to be my life. This is not the way the world is going to be. So after that moment, I have done everything I possibly can to not be feminine. Because in his mind, because I presented as female, my only options were being a bank teller and a secretary. And as you can see, that kind of makes me a little ragey because I knew there were so many more things that I wanted to do in my life. So I wish I had known about goddess veneration when I was that age. And I actually want to teach a kids course on all of this stuff because I think our kids do need to know about it. So how are you feeling? Where do you sit within that, energy? There's a lot of people saying that they're divine masculine, but are there lots of people out there that also feel that they really sit in that feminine energy and they go with the flow and they feel feminine? Or do you feel a little bit of both? I'm a huge believer in we can be so expansive that we can be all of it. And I really, I do think in certain ways, witchcraft can come across as very feminine. And because people don't even know that a witch is non-binary. Witch doesn't mean female. Witch is male or female. My son was like, well, I'm a warlock. And I'm like, no. That's not the term for male witch. A male witch is just a witch. And I think we need to have this conversation more because goddess worship is really entrenched in witchcraft or spirituality. And you see the triple, is there the triple moon? I don't think I have an example of it. Isn't it funny? I'm like, oh, it's everywhere. And then I can't even find it anywhere. This is another great book if you're looking. The 12 Faces of the Goddess by Danielle Blackwood. It's about transform your life with astrology, magic, and the sacred feminine. This would be another great book if you're looking to really delve into. There's rituals in here. There's meditations in here. And it goes through every single, it goes through like Leo. It goes through like all the astrology, but for each of those signs, it gives you rituals and things to do, which is fantastic. Stella says, I feel very feminine and look that way, but I also a go-getter, intimidating, and I lift weights for fun. Fantastic. So you have that divine feminine, divine masculine aspect. And yes, outwardly, I look very divine feminine, but there's some days not at all. And we have to embrace it all somewhere in between Norse warrior goddess and Cleopatra's strength. I love that. So, I'm going to speak a second to people that do have a cycle, that do have a menstrual cycle. So when we have a menstrual cycle, whether it's controlled by birth control or whether you are natural flowing, this is a way to really connect back to that divine feminine and create a ritual around it. Now, I'm not, I have friends that use their menstrual blood in ritual, like they use a diva cup and they collect it every month and they paint it on their face or they give it to the earth or they do all, and you can do those things. I'm not that deep into it. I've never had a yoni steam. That aspect of the craft, I haven't really been pulled to, but if that is something that interests you, it is a way to deepen that connection as well. Connecting to your, being afraid, because who else was taught that your menstrual blood is disgusting? And you didn't talk about tampons. You didn't talk about maxi pads. Definitely didn't talk about your periods. You know, we were taught, and this is all patriarchy. We were all taught that it was disgusting. That, you know, well, maybe you should stay home. Or, you know, don't, you know, if you had, like, I still remember sitting in a, I was that girl. I was sitting in the auditorium watching something, and somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, you need to go to the bathroom." It was like, I was wearing jeans and there was like this big giant. Like, yay, don't you love those experiences? But there was always like whisper, whisper, whisper. And you were told that it was pretty much a gross thing to experience. One of the ways to reclaim that and to like take your power back is to appreciate what your body goes through every single month and honoring it, whether it's just sitting with yourself and having a bath of Epsom salts, putting some rosebuds in there. You can really deepen into it and honor yourself when you're bleeding. Because I think we're getting there. We are getting there. People are talking about it more. Now we have like Think, or is it Nick? No. Oh my gosh, what's the company? Hey, look, I'll look at my shirt so I can remember. What does it say on there? Yeah, it's Nick's. So Nick's, the company that made this like bodice thing that I'm wearing, they also have that underwear that's for your period. So like on your lower flow days, you can wear the underwear. It's right in the underwear. I love them, especially at the ends of my period, or if I'm thinking it's going to show up tonight, I will wear them to bed. So then it's not, my husband, like, I'm so honest and blunt about my period and it drives him crazy. I'm like, oh, don't go in the bedroom. It's a murder scene. And he's always like, ew. And I'm like, we need to normalize this. I don't want my son growing up thinking women's periods are gross. And that's one way to reclaim it. One way to work with the goddess and one way to reclaim our power back is to embrace our cycle, to embrace the fact that you're going through menopause and there is a change from mother to crone. So in witchcraft, the 3 phases of the moon is maiden, mother, crone, right? This is the goddess. And we are all of those aspects. There are aspects of you that are still in your maiden. Like there's aspects of me that is that little girl standing in front of that teacher being told that I'll never amount to anything. But there's also pieces of me that are already in crone phase. I've been moving into crone phase, I would probably say the last 5 years. And not just because I'm physically moving into the crone phase, but because I'm becoming a wise woman. Because the wisdom that comes out of me through my channeling needs to be heard. And when you become a crone, you become the advisor, you become the counselor, you become the wise woman who conveys the information. When we're a maiden, we're just learning. And when we're a mother, we're embracing, you know, the mothering stage. And it doesn't mean you physically have to be a mother. You do not have to bear children to be at any of these phases. And I get this question a lot. Where do you fit in the 3 phases? Have you ever even thought about it? Are you a maiden? Are you a mother? Are you a crone? And, you know, looking at those aspects of yourself and truly accepting yourself for where you are. You know, some people really have a hard time transforming themselves into a crone. I've been chasing being a crone probably for the last 10 years. And it's not that I don't want to be a mother. I love myself. I'm mothering, I'm nurturing, I'm all of those things. But when I turned 40, I really felt this pull towards you're no longer mothering people. I don't need to take care of people anymore. Like, I don't need to hold your hands. I need to inform you. I need to give you my wisdom. In the beginning, when I was first doing all of this work, it was very much I was holding people's hands and I was the guide and I was taking them along with me. But now, as I sit in this crone energy, I'm giving you the information and allowing you to stand in your sovereignty and make the choices for yourself. And that's, for me, what being a crone is all about, is sharing your wisdom, but not necessarily nurturing that. I mean, yes, I nurture it in my community. I am there to help people, but it's in a different way. I no longer have to physically carry you to the next phase. I'm just here giving my wisdom. Okay. So we've talked about why Friday the 13th is the day of the goddess, those 13 moon cycles, the number 13. Oh, I'm just going to read this. It says, the number 13 also holds an extremely potent feminine energy that is considered to be the number of death, the number of rebirth, creation, fertility, and blood. So those are all things that we have talked about. So, if you are a menstruating human, no matter what gender you are, blood is involved. So that is something that invokes divine feminine. It's why people use their menstrual blood in ritual, if you choose to. If it's not your thing, it doesn't have to be your thing. There's never anything within the witchy realm that you must do. I really want to make that clear. If you're sitting here and you're going, I don't get any of this, I don't understand why I need to tap into my divine feminine, then maybe you're not ready for it. Maybe it's just not for you, and that's totally fine. Or if you're like, I'm already good with the goddesses, I've totally got this, I don't have to worry about it, that's fine too. This is all about Friday the 13th is a great day to create, to put something out into the world. And at the end of this, I'm just going to tell you, I've got two little things that I'm going to offer up. The first one is just join my community. There's a link in my bio to the WOOshop with Emma Smallbone community. It is free. So I'm going to show you in a minute what that community looks like, but I want to talk a little bit more about the individual goddesses. So just give me a second here. Oh no, I want that open. So I'm just going to put it down here. That's okay. And bring this over. What is back here? I need to get rid of this. I don't need you to see all my stuff that's on the, so let's put this here and go like this. So if you are on Instagram, you are not going to see this printable, but if you want to download it, join my community, because all of these videos, I still have to go back and download I think I've downloaded them. I just need to upload them, the full, because they cut off on YouTube because the network was switchy. But I see there's 4 people on YouTube. So just say hi in the comments. If you're on Instagram, say hi in the comments. So I've created this little ebook, and in the ebook, it talks about a guide to different goddesses and their meanings. So Lakshmi is a goddess of abundance. You invoke her for wealth, self-love, good health, good luck. We have Gaia, the goddess, Mother Earth, the one that birthed us all. Hey, she's for, and I keep scrolling on the wrong thing, so I keep moving the wrong thing. She's for invoking nurturing, unconditional love. Like, don't we all need a little bit of that? When you're feeling like, I always invoke Gaia, and the way that I invoke Gaia, it's the simplest thing to do. Go outside, lay face down on the ground, and put your heart on the earth. And just breathe the earth in. And here's the thing about invoking the goddess. Yes, you can do a big ass fancy ritual. You can set up an altar. You can feed them on the daily. So when we're giving offerings, we're essentially feeding the goddess. So you can put food on your altar, you can put candles on your altar, you can put incense on your altar, and you can put herbs on your altar. And to find that out, just type in the goddess's name and typing correspondences, and it will come up with the herbs and flowers and colors for each and every goddess. I actually think in this goddess for the year, I think it goes through, yeah, it does. It talks about the symbols and correspondences. It talks about their animal totems, and it talks about how individually how to invoke them. So if you really are looking to this and you want some guidance, this truly is a great book. Again, it's Your Goddess Year, and it's by Sky Alexander. And I think I have 3 copies left in the shop if you're interested. I always appreciate it when people shop local, not Amazon people. Bezos has enough friggin' money. And I would really appreciate your support. So Candace says, I love Gaia and I talk out loud to her all the time. And Cernunnos and I feel like he loves her too. Maybe that's why he showed up. Yeah, because it's so Mother Earth and Father Sky, right? We have these two things. I feel like they are part and parcel. The Lord and the Lady. That's the way that I see. So Cernunnos or Serenus or the horned god, he is kind of that alter ego. If you kind of want to play, oh, and Jen on YouTube says, hey, have I said in the last 5 minutes how much I love your printables? I have fun making them. I also have graphic design experience, so it's a way for me to like play with that I haven't done in the past. So thank you, Jen. I really appreciate that. I love my printables too. So if you really want to play with that divine feminine and that divine masculine, you can call in the opposite god or goddess to that god or goddess at the same time to have that balanced energy. And yes, it's mutual respect. They truly do. Like if you Beltane, it's always the horned god chasing the divine feminine or the goddess, right? At the fire festival, the girls, the maidens run off into the forest and then the horned god chases them. It's a very sexual ritual, and you have sex in front of the fire to invoke fertility and abundance for the coming year. And you're supposed to have sex on the land where you want it to be fertile. One of my favorite rituals, to be honest. I was actually supposed to be in Scotland, in Edinburgh, for the fire festival 2 years ago, and that's when COVID happens, and it was my 44th birthday. I was so excited about it, and we were going to go to the Isle of Skye. So disappointment major. Yeah, that's why you like it. See, this is the thing, Candace. Sometimes the truth comes to us without us even knowing. So you didn't know that that god and that goddess went together, but you knew that that god and that goddess went together. And sometimes we just have to trust. Yes, I will be putting a list of these books and decks underneath, and I'll put links to them in the shop too, underneath the YouTube. And I'll maybe put them in the comments on Instagram too. So going down the list of goddesses, we have Freya, because I love Freya. I've put in Venus in here. There's Pele, which is the fire goddess. The Hawaiian fire goddess. She's like the volcano. What's the movie? Is it, what's that one? The Hawaiian gods in Disney, and Pele's in there if you want to learn about Pele. That's a really cute way to learn. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, protection, victory, courage, leadership. So this is all on the printable that I have created for you. I go down, there's even Egyptian gods, Isis. Isis shows up for my son all the time. So he loves the Kyle Gray deck. I mean, for him, it's awesome. why can't I pronounce that? That was what I was seeing in my head, but for some reason I can't pronounce it. Moan? No, that's not Mona. That's not right. I know what you're saying. I just can't hear it in my head. This is another, that's my processing piece. When I look at that word, I know what it's supposed to sound like, but I can't make the sound come out of my mouth. I have interesting processing things. It complicates my life, but I'm so used to it now. I'm 45. I've had to Moana. There we go. Thank you for the phonetic spelling. I appreciate that because my brain can't process it. So I was just talking about Isis. This is my son's goddess that shows up a lot for him, and he loves this deck. He's been pulling from this deck since he was like 2, and she always shows up for him. I think she loves this deck so much, or he loves this deck so much, because Kyle is a spiritual being and he doesn't get to see many men in the spiritual realm. I mean, men are starting to kind of make headways in this industry, but I want more of them. Like, whenever I do these lives, I'm like, are there any men out there? Like, I don't just talk about women's stuff. Just because I'm witchy doesn't mean it's all about feminine. Yes, we're talking about the goddess today, but like I have said, this doesn't have to do with whether you're male or female. You can be any gender and accept the goddess into your heart. You can be any gender and accept gods into your heart. It doesn't matter about your gender. And goddesses are so powerful. Why wouldn't you want to be a part? Have them be a part? So yeah, we were talking about Kali. She is the goddess of revolution. So if you want changes made, you call on Kali. But Kali is also one of those goddesses. So any of these dark goddesses, and I kind of hate that we are like dark or light, or how we talk in witchcraft. We no longer call them white witches or dark witches, or black magic and white magic. We don't do that anymore. But there is still some of this like dark goddess stuff sticking around. I just think they're goddesses. I guess it's a good thing to label it, because these are the ones you don't want to trifle with. Like, you don't want to be like half in when you work with these goddesses. You want to be fully in. An example is I called on Hectate's night, which is, I want to say, it's November 16th, I believe, is Hectate's night. I called her in to help my mother-in-law pass. Or is it the 8th? I can't remember. Anyway, it's in November at some time. And the night of Hectate, I called in to help because my mother was in hospice, or my mother-in-law was in hospice. And we all knew it was time, but she was beyond ready to go. She actually got really mad because love my mother-in-law so deeply, and she has such strong opinions. But I still remember one of the last nights that I saw her, she was saying to the nurses, God is going to call me home tonight. I am asking him to call me home. Tonight is the night. And just like, she looked at me, I won't see you in the morning. Like, she was so convinced she was going that night. And when she woke up the next day, she was so pissed off. So I knew she wanted to go. I knew that she was ready. So that night I called on Hectate's night, to help cross her over. Because Hectate is the keeper of the crossroads, the keeper of the liminal. If you need a key to get across something, this is Hectate's key. If you need a key to get across, or you need to cross over a crossroads, then you actually literally go to a crossroads and you do work with Hectate. And that's what I did. I knew it actually didn't matter if I was at a crossroads, because we were at a crossroads with my mother-in-law. It was kind of like this, either she's going to cross or she's going to hold on. So I just helped that across. So we can ask goddesses to help us move things along energetically. And the very next day, my mother-in-law passed. So I had, and that was one of the first major workings that I had done with Hectate. And and it's why, again, big shiver, but I don't talk about my relationship with Hectate a lot because I call on her when I need the heavy lifting done. When I'm at that crossroads and it feels like, well, I'm either going this way or I'm going this way. And it's either going to be good or it's going to be bad. So come on, Hectate, I really need to shift this. That's what I call her in for. And for her wisdom. She's a very powerful goddess. So again, doing research. So yes, you're going to be able to download this amazing list of goddesses, the more common goddesses that are out there. They're from all sorts of different traditions. But if you don't know what your true tradition is, you have to cast that wide net and then see what calls to you. I didn't get to finish my story the other day about why I headed towards Norse. But again, in this Kyle Gray deck, I was pulling, oh, that's not, where's Odin? He's in here somewhere. I was pulling Freya and Odin almost every single day. So these cards were showing up for me over and over and over and over again. And I'm like, this is really weird. I kind of felt awkward because this is when cultural appropriation conversation was really starting. Oh, just join my community. Thank you. So all of this information, there's going to be a course, and actually stay on K-Word because, oh, there's one on African goddesses. Okay, amazing. I will have to, actually, can you, now that you're in the community, K-Word, could you post that book in there so we have a wide variety of information? Because I think it's really important. We are a world community. And this is why I do understand closed practices. Yes, there are closed practices. There's hoodoo stuff you don't want to touch. There is, Bruja stuff you don't want to touch. There is, there's Romany stuff that you do not want to touch. There are traditions that are not to be taken from or to be used or to be, manipulated to fit your practice. But when it comes to this world, we have always traveled, we have always traded. That's okay, K-Word, just give it a whirl. And actually, if you sit on here or watch this video afterwards, I'm going to show the community that I have, and I'm going to show you how to do a post or how to interact on the community, because it's a little bit different than Facebook, which everybody got used to. So anyway, I'm getting distracted. Let me get back to this. So I was feeling guilty because this is when cultural appropriation was coming in, and I'm like, I was born in England. I'm not Norse. Why are these showing up? And I felt some guilt around calling the god and goddess in that was calling to me. I felt bad about it. I was like, well, this isn't really mine. I don't want to start saying I follow Norse paganism if I'm not from that place. And the more that I looked into the Norse community, it is so open. And I think that's why I truly love it. But then I went to England and I was doing some work while I was home because I was born in England. I was doing some work because England is pissed I left, like the actual land. And it's funny because a good friend of mine is also from England and she's moving back. Actually, she's moving to, where she's moving? The Isle of Anglesey, where all the Druids were. She's moving back too. And we haven't spoken this out loud, but I probably have a feeling she has that same feeling. When somebody magical leaves a magical land, you take a piece. So it's why I portal to Avalon all the time, because that land needs my energy. And I have had so many experiences in Glastonbury, on that land, in my hometown, in my home country, that I was always like, there's no way that Norse is a part of me. But I went back the last time, I took my son with me. And I met up with my cousins that I hadn't seen for probably 20 years. This was, we grew up together. When I was telling the story about seeing spirit in my uncle's, that was the last time I saw them when I was 8 years old. So it had been a really long time. And I started talking about all this work that I do. And, I said I was back here to talk to the land, to do a ritual, to give thanks for me being born into this world, and that I'm here to, create a relationship with the land again. And I was talking about what my practices were. And I said, but there's this really weird piece for me. And I said to my cousins, I'm like, there's this Norse piece that keeps showing up. Do you know anything about this? And my cousin was just like, oh, you're not going to believe this. So she has gone through our whole entire family tree. She works at the, what's the museum in London? The Natural History Museum. She's an oceanographer. Well, she's not anymore. She's not there anymore. But when I was back, she was working there as an oceanographer and doing all sorts of research. She's so friggin' cool. But she says the same thing about me. So we're like, oh, I'm so jealous of the life you got. And she's like, oh, I'm so jealous of the life you had. And I'm like, okay, we just have to appreciate the lives we have. But she was like, she was always drawn to the Orkneys, which are these little islands in the north of Scotland. And she didn't really know why. But when she started to research our ancestry, she actually realized that the village next to where she had her cottage in the Orkneys is where our family was from. And the original person that was of the Horsman side of the family, because I'm a Horsman and a Smallbone, was Ragnar. So if you've watched Vikings, he's the main character. Our ancestor, he was the first one. So I was like, damn, that's why I'm so drawn to this. That's why it keeps showing up for me. And then all of a sudden I felt peace. And all of a sudden I felt like I could truly, and I want you guys to trust your guts, because we don't know where we're from. If you're British, you are of everything, because everybody came to trade there. If you're Canadian, you're probably of everything. You're probably Scottish, you're probably English, you could be partially from Africa. I know very many people that their ancestors came up from the south, right? So we don't know where we began. So don't limit yourself when you start this practice. I know cultural appropriation has become this big giant thing, and it strikes fear into so many people, but just be open to receiving. Now, don't be one of those people, well, I'm 5% Indigenous, Cherokee, whatever. You can't claim something unless you're acquiring the knowledge. So you can't just show up. I couldn't just show up and say, I'm Norse pagan without doing any of the work. You have to do the work. You have to educate yourself, and you have to honor that tradition. You can't just take it as your own. So we're talking about goddesses today, and I have given you this list of Greek goddesses, Norse goddesses, Egyptian goddesses. I've given you, who else is it? Hindu goddesses. There's all sorts of traditions in there. Most traditions started in the Hindu tradition. That is where most religion has come from. They just traveled across that Silk Road area and brought their traditions. So a lot of it is based in Vedic astrology. A lot of it is based in Hindu tradition. So even though Hindu gods show up in a very specific way, you will see those ideas throughout all sorts of traditions. And then with Greek and Roman gods, so the Greek gods were the original gods. And then the Romans came in and went, whoa, we fucking like your gods. We're just going to name them something different. So when we have Diana is it? Oh, I can never remember which one is Greek and which one is Roman. I think the Greek is Diana, and oh my God, now I can't. Artemis is Roman, or it's the other way around. Yeah, Roman is Diana, and Artemis is Greek. They're the same. So everybody has taken pieces from traditions since time and eternity. And if it is your own personal practice and you are not making money off of that personal, like, I would never go out and say, I'm going to teach a lesson on Hindu practices. Yes, way back in my ancestry, there is like an itty bitty piece of Hindu, but it is not mine to teach. I will give you bits and pieces so you can go out and find what works for you. But look at your traditions. You know, like I said, I went all the way back, and my traditions are Norse and Romani and Celtic. So we have Druid magic in there, we have Celtic magic in there, we have Norse magic in there. So those I feel very comfortable claiming for myself. There are pieces that I don't feel comfortable with. Like, you know, I have a couple of Hindu pieces in my shop. And I think I'm probably going to start bringing more of that stuff back in because my clients have a world perspective. My clients have all sorts of different things that they want to honor. So I want to be able to provide that to you, no matter what your tradition is. So now that I've gone down that path, we've talked about how to connect with the goddess. I'm just going to come down here to the end. So there is a little ritual here. It's just a simple one, nothing fancy. It's actually using a tea light instead of a cauldron, because you can do this. You put the herbs on the tea light. And I've got my little pocket goddess here to represent all the goddesses. So you don't have to have a specific goddess figure. Yes, I have my Odin, and I actually have a Freya one too somewhere. I should have brought her out. Actually, a really good friend of mine made that. But yeah, it doesn't have to be hard. It can be really, really easy. Now, here we go. This is what we're going to get into here. Join my free community. It is free. And we talk about all of these things in this community. One of the things that I'm announcing today that will change within that community is there's going to be 2 levels. So there's going to be the WooMate community, which is $5 a month. Now this is $5 USD just because Mighty Networks charges in US. I couldn't find a platform that charged in Canadian dollars. So that community, my WooMate community, which is within the free community, and I'm going to show you all this in a minute. For $5 a month, you get to show up, and I do this once a month for you. So every single month, I will do card pulls, and I will do a woo chat just like this in that community, and it costs you $5. It just allows me to be able to do this work for a small fee. And right now, there's nobody in there. So if you join this community and, you know, a handful of people show up, you're always going to get a card reading. So that is my very basic offering. The next one, which I have run before. So if you are a lifetimer for Woo Life, which I did host on Facebook, you will be able to get into Woo Life for free. You do not have to pay anything because you paid that lifetime fee. This is me reenacting Woo Life. It's just, I have not had the energy to do it up until now. But now I'm so excited because I have the energy. I have the passion again. I have the ability to host this on a platform that feels good to me. So Woo Life is going to be $22 a month. And there is a separate community where you can all chat together. This is one of the cool things that I love about Mighty is there's a community chat within the chat. So yes, you can post to the wall. You can, you know, ask questions in there. You can watch these lives, but also you can chat with each other. That's why I wanted to create this, because There's a lot of spaces on the internet within the witchy realm, but I wanted to create a space where people felt comfortable asking questions that weren't necessarily, if you don't know anything, you can ask a question. If you're a lifelong practitioner, you can ask a question. This is for everybody. So in Woo Life, it's one live like this a month where I'm going to be doing card pulls. And then I'm going to do one pre-recorded lesson a month. So that could be anything about rune magic. We could talk just like this about goddesses. We could talk about casting spells. We could talk about moon rituals. We could talk about blending your own incense. There's so many things that I'm going to be talking about there. But once a month, you're going to get a live, and once a month, you're going to get a lesson. And that is for $22 per month. And you can cancel or join or cancel and join. There's no long commitment to that. And it's just like woo culture. So if you're a longtime follower of me, sorry about that, Instagram. My little thing came up and said, you've been on social media for too long today. No, I haven't. So if you were a part of woo culture, this is just woo culture moved to the Mighty Network. So let me just show you. I'm just going to turn this off and I'm going to bring this up. This is my community. So this, when you come into the WOOshop with Emma Smallbone, this is where you're going to land. And it kind of looks like the Facebook wall. So we have featured things. So look at this, Ritual Without Rules. If I click on this, there's all the videos and principles, and this is free. You don't have to pay for this. I have to still put up a couple pieces, but then we click back to the network. And again, here somebody said, what does Friday the 13th actually mean? I'm like, watch my live. People, we have a whole bunch of different communities within here. So if you go over to this side, or there is also an app, just like Facebook. So you can download the app, and if you swipe left while you have the app open, this menu on the side here, oh, you're not seeing this on Instagram. I apologize. This is on YouTube. So if you want to take a look at my community, you can see it on YouTube. Down the side here, there's topics, events, interests, communities. So within the communities, we have Woo Kids, which my son runs, which I have to get him back active on that. We kind of had a situation where his email was getting attacked with very adult content, and we had to delete a whole bunch of stuff, and now I need to get him back into Woo Kids, and he does it through his Chromebook. We have the Woo Trading Group, which is a buy and sell group. There's the Leaky Cauldron, which is just for non-witchy stuff. So if you want to talk about your relationship, if you want to talk about where to find a good mattress, or you want to talk about like swapping recipes, do that in the Leaky Cauldron. We have Woo Culture, the community, which is what Woo Culture, that is the free witchy community. So that is where you can talk about all things witchy for free. Then we have the Shedding, which was a course. I don't think I have it for purchase right now, but the Shedding was a shadow work course, my 6-month shadow work course. This is all on the app. So it's, if you swipe swipe right on the app, this menu shows up, and then you can see all of these things. So if you click also on courses, this is where you're going to find Ritual Without Rules. I also have my Intuition 101 course that I taught years and years and years ago that I probably won't open back up again because I have changed since then. So if you have purchased Seer School in the past, this is where it's sitting. And then I have the Shedding course in here. But right now I have Ritual Without Rules, where you can go, I'm going to download this video today. All the printables are there, and this is completely free. The only thing that you would have to pay for is WooMates, which is the $5 a month, or down here is Woo Life. And that is the $22 a month. So if you want more of me on the regular monthly, those are the two places that you want to be in. All of the other communities, I show up and I comment, but I'm not going live in them, only if I'm doing things like this for free, to share some of my wisdom, which I do every once in a while. But these are all communities that you can join. You won't see this one down the bottom. This is for all my friends that own witchy businesses. So that only shows up on my account. So if you're like, where was that? And also the Coven, which was my community for my business course. So every once in a while, I'm not going to do these for a while because I did the shedding, which was my shadow work course, and I did the Coven, which was my business course. Those both lasted 6 months during the pandemic. So I was teaching courses for a year during the pandemic, and it was so overwhelming. So I'm going to take some time off from teaching big courses. And my creation for that was the Woo Life and WooMates. So if you get into the app or on the desktop and you're like, I have no idea where to be, when we're commenting right here on this main page, it is going to everybody that is a part of the community, and it's not specifically in one of the communities. You can click on this button and select what you want to do. If you want to add a photo, you can embed a video, but if you just start typing, then you create a post. And if you want to create a post with more than one image, or you want to add more content, you just say expand to article. And then all of a sudden you have this bigger space to do a post. So it's a very cool, I gotta hit cancel. It's a very cool platform once you start to understand it. When you come to the main page, let's go to discovery. So in the discovery section, I actually have now I'm like, where is it? Maybe I've got it in featured. So you can come down here and you can see all the top courses. You can see members near you. You can see the featured things that I have. So if you go to featured, there is actually me doing a video of the tour of Mighty Networks. So I need to boost that up to the top a little bit. But the other cool thing about Mighty Networks that I love is not only is my community there, not only are my courses there, but we can list things by specific topics. So if you go over here to topics and you go to pagan espots and sabbats, you're going to see all the information that I have posted about espots and sabbats because I tagged them in the main thing. So if you're looking for information on, like, what was the other one that I had some good, the resources, apps, and websites, this had some really great links in here. So I've got a whole thing about mythology. I've got, I posted about launch day, human design. There's a really cool website to figure out your human design. I posted about the pattern app. I posted about this free tarot app. So there's all sorts of resources within the Mighty Networks. I love it because, as you can tell, there's no bloody advertising. There's no advertising, and then there's not other communities competing with my community. So I always found when I was on Facebook and I'm in somebody else's group, you're being advertised to go in all these other groups, and you're always being pulled somewhere else. I created this community to be intentional. Yes, it's not where people hang out. Yes, it's not on Instagram. Yes, it's not on Facebook. This is intentional because if you want to work with me, I want you to choose to work with me. If you want to be a part of my community, I want you to choose, set the intention to show up and contribute in a positive, informative way. What I was finding about Facebook was it got to be a dumpster fire of people just showing up and vomiting their opinions. It wasn't intentional. So I have created this specifically to create an intentional space where we speak about spirituality and witchcraft and cyclical living, living with the cycles of the season, living with the cycles of the moon. That is what I created this community for. So if you loved what you saw this week, let me just flip back for a second. Because now where did that go? Here we go. Also, if in the ebook, there is a link to my booking site. If you loved seeing what I did and you are drawn to having a session with me, whether it's for mediumship, whether it's for connecting with your ancestors or your higher self, or whether you need some healing, there is a code, ritual, to get 50% off your session. So use that code. Book a session if you're called to do it. If not, thank you for showing up this week. You know, hang on, I'm just going to go back to the main thing. I have loved doing this, and it really made me realize that this is what I was put on this planet to do, is to inform people how simple these practices can be, how easy it can be to find a witchy community. What is $50 off if you use the code ritual to book a session with me? It's got to be ritual, all uppercase. So if you click on the booking button at the bottom of the WOOshop page, you can book a session with me, use the code ritual, and you get $50 off. So I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be showing up and giving of myself. Now, I have to be careful. And this is where we're going to finish the conversation, because I have to be careful about not being so in my divine feminine that I'm always giving. And that's why I created the paid communities within the WOOshop with Emma Smallbone, so I can receive also for my offerings that I'm giving. So yes, every once in a while, I'm going to show up and still do free stuff. But I also, as an individual who is very giving, I have to learn how to receive. I have to learn how to be supported by my community. And I've never really been good at that. I've never been very good. And even I didn't have those pages written up until about 20 minutes before this all started, because I'm never thinking about asking people for money. I'm never the sale. It's like, go and buy this for $24.99. Like, I'm not that person. I've never been that person. I'm not a good salesperson. And that's the piece of the divine masculine that I do have to learn how to step in, is asking people to support me so I can do this work, so I can show up this way and support my community in this way. Because if I'm not supported, I can't do this. I can't have the shop if people don't buy from the shop. I can't continue my practice if I'm not supported with my readings. So I'm learning just as much as you are. This is about me learning how to receive. So it still feels weird for me. It still feels weird for me to say, hey, check out my community for $5 a month or $22 a month. That's hard for me. But this is shadow work. This is stepping into who you are as a human being and fully embracing what you are capable of. And if I don't do this, I'm not a good example to everybody else that is coming up behind me. Because trust me, there are some people that have watched this week that have been like, oh, I need to do this. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling connected to all of this. Like, look at how magical Emma's life is and how I could maybe tap into just a little bit of that and find it for myself. Every single time I speak, I know I'm activating somebody else. It's one of my gifts. I trigger people into their spiritual selves. I allow people to see how easy this can be so then they can show up for themselves and maybe turn a piece of this into their career or into part of their daily life. So I'm hoping that you join me in my community. I'm hoping that you show up and support me. And will be eternally grateful because I know this is my life's work. I waffled. We had a couple months back where I was like, I think I need to become an equestrian massage specialist because I love horses, if you don't know. I waffled. I was like, maybe this isn't for me. There was lots of deep, anybody else in the last couple of months feel some deep doubts showing up and some deep like, ooh, I don't think this is my path. I had that. But luckily, I was able to come back to my truth again. Luckily, I was able to see the path that led me here, to speaking to you this week, to sharing my wisdom, to honoring the wisdom that has been given to me by the gods and goddesses and by spirit and by our ancestors. I know that I was put here on this earth to do this. And I know some of you were put here on this earth to do this too. And I want you to hang on. And I want to encourage you to find your path, wherever that may be within this realm. Because when we come together in these communities, when we share this wisdom, we become so powerful as a community. It's when we shrink ourselves and make ourselves small, and when we doubt ourselves, when we doubt our gifts, that's when we lose ourselves. I've lost myself so many times. I've lost myself so many times. But through this work, through ancestor veneration, through goddess veneration, through God, working with the gods and my ancestors, I always come back to my center. And this is it. Sharing this wisdom with you, sharing this wisdom with kids, sharing this wisdom with my friends, my family, whoever wants to listen. So if you loved what you heard today, and you know some of your friends would love it, share them with this. Everybody is welcome within my community. You do not have to be of a specific practice. I just don't tolerate hate or bullying. So just know that my space is an incredibly safe space. You get two strikes. That's it. The first one, and then the second one, you're out. So it is so safe, and Mighty Networks is so safe because it's mine. I pay for it. I pay for Mighty Networks to exist, so we don't have to be advertised to, so we don't have to deal with the dumpster fire that is now Facebook. That is what I have created, and I'm offering it to you. So whether you join the free community, whether you join the $5 community, or whether you join the $22 community, it is completely up to you. And there is no commitment to any of this. If you sign up for the 22 and you go, this is not for me, you are more than welcome. Or you get what you need and then you need to move on. That is totally fine too. So just share your experiences this week. Share that you learned something this week. Share with your friends what you learned this week. Share with your family what you learned this week. Or take it all on yourself and go, I feel like I've come home because I finally heard ritual explained in the way that I can understand it. So welcome, Woo Mates. Welcome to my community. Welcome to my space. And thank you for joining me this week because it has totally lit me up. Even though I've been sick for most of this week, I feel so much better because I'm doing the work I was born to do. So thank you for showing up and supporting me. Thank you for the comments on YouTube and on Instagram. All of this will be saved on YouTube, Instagram, and in my community. So you can come back to these videos whenever you want. I know Jen Camara will be watching them over and over and over again. I love you, Jen, and your consumption of everything that I put out there. So have a wonderful weekend. Happy Friday the 13th. Happy Day of the Goddess. Go and embrace the woo because it is for everybody and there are no rules. Bye for now, woo mates.